Well, now, what's the name of the guy on first? You're supposed to say who. Who's on first? Now, what's the name of the guy on first? Who? Can't you remember that? Who's on first?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. Why are you having so much trouble with this? Who's on first?
I don't know.
Oh, this is ridiculous. You're just angry at me because I didn't believe your UFO story.
It's not a story.
Oh, who needs this? Did Martin need Lewis? Did Alan need Rossi? Did Abbott need Costello? Yeah, actually, maybe he did.
Dad, you trying to make a point?
No, I don't care. I mean, listen, if Nicholas doesn't want to do this, he doesn't have to do it. I'll do it alone. Who's on first? What? No, what's on second? I don't know. He's on what? Who? Hi. Who?
Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Hey, welcome to Season 3 of Battle of the Network shows. And this is Mike. I'm here with Rick. This is also the Battle of the Network show's slumber party. So, look forward to all sorts of fun. Some pillow fights.
Ooh.
Some pranks.
All right.
Yeah. And today we're going to be talking about 8 is Enough. And I know, Rick, you've been catching up on a lot of 8 is Enough. Not just today's episode, but...
I have been.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about this show.
Yes, 8 is Enough was a family dramedy back before the term was cool, I think. Aired on the ABC television network. And it was based on a humorous memoir written by a Tom Braden about his life living with 8 children. And they decided to turn it into a show, a warm and gentle family show. We've talked about family sitcoms, but that was kind of another thing that every now and then you'll see, like, at any given time, I think there's maybe one sort of just family drama comedy on the air, but not a whole lot of them. It seems like that used to be more of a thing back in the 70s, which is this began, in the late 70s. And the centerpiece of the show was Tom Bradford, the main character, a newspaper columnist in Sacramento, and he was played by one of our favorites, Dick Van Patten.
DVP.
Yes, also known, we hope, from this point on as DVP. And, he had a long career already, and he's known for many things. This is probably his most famous lead role, but he had work as a child star, was in Disney movies, things like that, and had a rich television career. But this is like his chance to like really have a show built around him. So he had 3 sons and 5 girls that we'll be talking about through the course of this episode, I'm sure. And then when the show started, Diana Hyland played his wife. She passed away in real life and was replaced by Betty Buckley's character, Abby, who started dating Tom, and eventually married and became like the stepmother and then part of the show. So the show lasted 5 seasons, all of which are currently available for streaming on Warner Archive Instant, and all 5 seasons are also on DVD. So I watched the show in reruns, I think on one of the local New York stations I got when I was growing up, and it's been on PAX Network, showed it for a while. I think FX might have shown it. So it's lived on in reruns over the years.
Yeah, I don't think I ever watched it on regular ABC.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I just remember like afternoons.
Okay.
Like an afternoon show, rerun show. And I mean, these are the things I remembered most.
Okay.
DVP.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Little Tyke Nicholas.
Adorable little Moppet. Yes.
Yeah. Willie Ames.
Yeah.
Your boy Grant Goodeve.
Yeah, we'll get into Grant Goodeve.
And that there were some girls.
Yes. There were some girls.
Didn't have a lot of memories about specifically. For instance, I didn't remember that it had a laugh track.
Yeah. It was
kind of like
sporadic.
Love Boat had a laugh track too, right?
Yeah, it's like a half-hearted laugh track.
Yeah.
Like every now and then it adds a little, but
right.
It's not very loud and it's not even used all the time.
Yeah. And I remember, like, the Willie Ames, his Tommy character had a rock band at some point.
Mm-hmm. Well, the boys in the show were the breakout stars. Like, the girls didn't really seem to do that much, but Grant Goody was a pretty big deal for a while. I think he was probably intended to be, like, kind of a big breakout hit star. But, Willie Ames, is famous for, Charles in Charge and went on other things. And at the time, Nicholas, the youngest, Adam Rich, was like the quintessential troubled child star for a while. And he sort of became infamous after the show, but he was like a big star too. So, I mean, now Betty Buckley is like an accomplished Broadway actress, of course, like a superstar. But other than that, the rest of the girls didn't do a lot afterwards.
I told you off air I was going to try to guess the order of the kids. Hopefully you know the answer. If not, we can kind of look it up.
Yes.
Okay. So we know David.
If you just know the names, that'll be pretty impressive.
Yeah, we might get into trouble.
Let's introduce everybody to the Bradford family.
David Bradford is the oldest son. We know that. That's actually important to the plot of the episode that we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Grant Goody. I don't know how old he is. He's out of the house. I mean, he seems like he might be in his 30s already. Or late 20s.
Yeah.
Second, I'm going to say is Mary, who's in medical school.
Yes.
Third, Joanie, who's a theater major in college.
Correct.
Now, here's where it starts to get iffy. Based on kind of looking up the actors, I'm going to say Nancy, who's sort of the tall blonde.
Yes.
Would be next, and that maybe she's in college.
I believe that is incorrect.
Okay.
At this time, she might. This is the episode we're going to talk about is the finale of season 2.
Yeah.
She might have been in college at that point, but I don't think she's the next in the line.
Okay. Susan, is she the redhead?
Yeah, Susan's the redhead.
Yeah, so I would put her as next.
Yes, I think
that's
correct.
And then either Tommy or Elizabeth, is that the other one?
Yes.
Yeah, like they seem like the youngest of the high school age kids.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, obviously, Nicholas.
Yeah, so Nancy, so Nancy would come after Susan, I believe.
Really? Okay.
And then I think Nancy was supposed to be about like 17 or 18. And then
okay.
I think it's Tommy, Elizabeth, and Nicholas.
Yeah. Because the actress playing Nancy was like 25 or 26 at that time.
Yeah, I think she was supposed to be playing pretty young. And actually, you may know this, but Joanie was actually older than Betty Buckley. The actress that played Joanie was like a year older. So Betty Buckley, I think, was like 29
really
when the show premiered. So she's playing
their
older. Stepmother, and Joanie, like not even the oldest daughter in the show, was actually a year older than her.
And DVP was about 50.
Yeah, he seems like he's perpetually 50, right?
He does, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember I looked him up a little before we started recording, and he was born the same year as my dad, so it's easy to do the math there. But
so yeah, and Mary, of course, was played by Dawn Grady's sister, Lonnie, or Dawn O'Grady. Yes, from My Three Sons. So this was one of his young sisters.
I can totally see that now.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that, but yeah.
And as far as the other ones, Joanie was the actress. Susan seems to be. I don't have much of a handle on her character, and even in this episode, she doesn't get much. But she eventually married Merle the Pearl, like a baseball player. And I think that was her big thing on the show. Unfortunately, was being married to that baseball player.
Huh.
And then.
So the reason I guessed she was in high school was later in the episode she plays a tuba, and she's wearing like a marching band outfit. And I figured, she's just wearing her high school marching band outfit.
Well,
and in another episode I watched, like she and Elizabeth seem more into like teasing Tommy about his dating.
Yeah.
But then I guess Susan and Elizabeth share a room, so I don't know. That makes sense.
Yeah. I could be wrong on that, but
no.
But I'm pretty sure that's the order.
Yeah.
And there's one of the early episodes. There's some kind of acronym that they introduced for just remembering all the names.
Right.
And I guess we could point out that on the original pilot, Mark Hamill played David.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then he was replaced. He was in some kind of accident, I think, and like scheduling didn't work out. He wound up having to settle for other things.
Yeah. Whatever happened to that guy?
I don't know. He's done all right for himself, but
yeah,
he wasn't the all around talent that Grant Goody was. So I think it worked out best for everybody.
And so in this season, Grant Goody is the only kid who makes it into the opening credits.
Yeah, which
It's just DVP, Betty Buckley, and him.
yeah, which is another reason I think that they intended for him. And a lot of the shows was like his big thing. One word to describe David Bradford: independent.
Yeah.
That was always his thing. He wanted to be independent.
Right.
So that's why he moves out. And he comes back to do laundry all the time. Who can blame him?
Yeah.
I'd rather do that.
Hey.
I could be independent as anything, but I'm not going to go to a laundromat if I can avoid it.
His sweet pad does not have room for a laundry either.
No, he does have a pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would totally cramp his style.
Yeah.
And besides, you meet lots of nice people at the laundromat.
He could, yeah.
Yeah, I think he does. An episode I saw recently had him and Tommy trying to pretend like they don't know how to do laundry to try to lure some women into talking with them. I think they tried the supermarket too, and
Boy.
So,
Doing the older brother thing and, teaching his brother a good lesson.
yeah, it's quite a family.
Yeah.
Quite a family, and yes, they have comic misadventures. Some episodes are more sitcom-y than others. Some episodes are more serious than others. And, then you got some episodes like the one we're about to talk about where you get a little bit of everything, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So this episode is called Who's on First? Aired May 10th, 1978, is that right?
That is correct, yes, at 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Yeah, and the show, let me just mention, too, that the show is actually pretty popular. I think it was a fair hit.
Yeah.
Like, it was in the teens in ratings for pretty much the first 4 seasons. And then the 5th season, it really ran out of steam and kind of plummeted a little bit. And that's when they decided to cancel it. And I'm sure having a cast of like 15 people by that point
Right.
was a factor in it. And it had run its course. And they've come back for some TV movies and things like that. But it was a 5-season show, so...
Yeah.
But a popular show.
Yeah.
Definitely a hit.
What sort of shows did it air with?
I was just looking at the grid last night. I can't remember. On ABC, there was one. Maybe That's Incredible might have been after it for 1 year. And actually, I think it might have been before Charlie's Angels.
Okay.
At least, I think Charlie's Angels moved around too. But 8 is Enough was like a classic 8 p.m. show.
Yeah.
Like geared towards the whole family.
Right.
A little suggestive sometimes, but
Yeah.
all in a nice PG, family-friendly kind of way.
Right. All right. Well, let's get into the episode.
Yeah. So where do you want to start with this?
I guess
It's built around. I mean, there's a kind of a little B plot that kind of ties in that with Nicholas running away from home.
Yeah. I just say quickly, and as we're talking about it, I thought like all the little stories kind of ended up coming together in a nice way.
They did, yes.
So, and like the descriptions make it look like almost the Nicholas plot is more important than it is.
Yeah, not true.
Yeah. So he's telling different family members that he saw a UFO, and nobody buys the story because it's Nicholas.
It's Nicholas.
And it's a UFO.
UFOs. Yeah, it's not the most credible combination of things.
Yeah. So he briefly runs away from home and goes to David's aforementioned sweet pad.
Yeah, David's bachelor pad, and David is he takes it in good humor and agrees to put him up for the the weekend. Or
Yeah.
He goes along. He indulges him.
Right, and the rest of the family, good old Tom is kid number 8. He's just very nonchalant. He's like
son number 3.
He'll be back.
He actually calls him son number 3 at one point.
Yeah. And everyone else they're just whatever.
Yeah.
He'll be back, and of course, as soon as he gets to David's, they know he's safe. So
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a huge thing. It's kind of fun watching them bond a little bit. It puts David into some awkward situations.
Yeah.
Most notably when, I guess, his girlfriend shows up.
Yeah, one of his
One of his
ladies shows up and
apparently for some afternoon delight. So he pays Nicholas to go
see how
walk
many
around the
laps
block.
Yeah, he says he'll give him a quarter for each time he goes around each lap he takes around the block.
Right. And then he's like, it's going to cost me a fortune.
Yeah.
And she says something
He
like,
brought his skateboard.
Good. And then right before the cut, he's like,
Yeah, he's really worried about losing those quarters.
yeah.
And actually, when DVP shows up later, he asks him if he's got any spare quarters.
Right. Yeah, the timeline of that, it was hard to work out because Nicholas was still going around the block, but she
was long gone.
was either gone or hiding out in the back.
There weren't very many skyrockets in flight in that afternoon delight. It was this.
Right.
It might have been delightful, but it wasn't long-lasting delight. Let's say that.
But in bringing us that, we get a lot of stuff about David, but we should probably mention the main story because that ties in back into David. Joanie, she's a theater major, and she's volunteering at a church.
Yeah, which has like a local...
Like orphans?
Like take care of orphans, yeah.
And she's been like being a clown, and so the priest asks her to help run they're like a benefit show.
Yeah, he's in a little bit of a pickle.
Right, and some former orphan alum is coming back, who's a big time comedian or something, is supposed to come back and headline the show. So
yeah, as a fundraiser, and yeah,
she's just got to put together the rest of the act, and she just assumes David is going to come be part of it.
Yeah, no.
Like even before they see the terrible acts that they have as options or some other things happen, she's just like, well, he's going to come. He's a great singer.
Yeah, which is true, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, the show has already established that he's a semi-aspiring musician. I mean, he works construction, but he also writes songs and plays guitar. So yeah, she considers him the star of the family. She says, yeah, this benefit needs a star.
Yeah.
And her older brother is the star, of course.
Right.
Kind of makes it sound matter-of-factly like, well, yeah.
Yeah. And Mary's helping her out, like, as a like stage manager. Yeah,
Mary apparently doesn't have talent and doesn't have to have any talent.
Right.
She gets to be an organizer and
yeah, that's her talent.
And evaluator of talent.
Yeah.
Because they do auditions and
yeah,
she's kind of sitting there like exasperated how bad everybody is.
Right. So yeah, the auditions. We only see two people audition. One guy is a singer who's not very good.
Yeah, he does like some standards and
he's sort of like a sawed-off guy. He looks a little bit like Mickey Rooney.
Yes.
A little bit like a small DVP.
Yeah.
And he does My Way, and then he launches into Feelings, right? Mm-hmm. And then a comedian comes in, like a hack comedian named Happy Belzer.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that was some reference to Richard Belzer. They just pulled a name out of the hat,
Yeah. But I don't know if you'd ever describe Richard Belzer as happy.
No, I could see Richard Belzer going on a rant about 8 is enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe he auditioned for the role of Thomas Bradford and launched a bitter crusade in his act against the show, and this is their way of giving him a little payback.
Right.
I doubt it, but it's possible.
Yeah. But Happy Belzer, like, he tells a joke that Nicholas told at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Like a frog legs joke.
Yeah. Do you have any frog legs? And ask the waitress if you have any frog legs, then hop on over and give me some.
Right.
Yeah. That kind of thing. And actually, Mary makes a comment, but Nicholas did tell it better, I think, at the beginning of the episode than Happy Belzer did. So yeah, it reinforces the feeling that they need a big star like David Bradford.
Yeah. And then
even
the original headliner drops out.
Right, and then when he drops off, that's it, because all the other acts, even the hack acts that they dropped out when the headliner goes. Yeah. So she's really in a jam.
Yeah.
Except there's one thing they might be able to do.
What's that?
Have your total non-professional, non-showbiz, non-talented family put on a show themselves at the spur of the moment.
Of course.
She brings this all up to them in the living room, and they take it surprisingly well.
Yeah.
I mean, they just kind of, it is for a good cause.
Right.
And there's definitely some ham in the Bradford family.
Yeah.
Like, Tommy's excited he can actually use his magician
routine. I find that interesting, like, just as a point of his life. Like, he's still more interested in doing his magic act than the rock thing. Yeah,
despite the fact that they had established earlier in that season that he was doing, like, stage pattern music with David.
Yeah.
Like, he had an act. He was developing a musical act, mainly.
Right. But they do actually mention that he's so consumed with the magic that he can't accompany Elizabeth in her tap dance.
Yeah, he's all about that magic bit.
Right.
Yeah, and, Tom just sits back and he just kind of like maybe strokes his chin. Well, I suppose Nicholas and I could work out some kind of routine.
Yeah.
It's like his first thought. Well, my youngest son and I guess we can do some. He just kind of he's thoughtful about it, but he doesn't. There's no real anxiety in his voice. He's like, we'll work something out.
Yeah, and Abby, the Betty Buckley character, kind of is like, well, I can sing.
Yeah.
And Nancy ends up helping with the magic act. There's
No.
a bit where you see her trying to spin a plate. But
Yeah. That Nancy has been in like beauty pageants before, and she was an aspiring model.
Okay.
So, matter of fact, there was another episode, I think in season 1 maybe, where she was working on that talent for a talent show, and I can't remember what she eventually went with, but she should have had a
Spinning
routine.
plates.
Yeah, yeah, not spinning. She should have had a routine all worked out, is what I'm thinking.
Right.
And yeah, Elizabeth got the tap dancing.
Susan ends up accompanying her on tuba.
Yeah, I don't know what Susan would have done if Elizabeth hadn't suddenly needed somebody to accompany her. But
Right.
Joni comes up with a brainstorm of having Susan accompany her.
Yeah. Which we both noticed didn't make any sense because they had a piano player.
Yeah, every other act has a piano player accompanying them. I think Tommy's Magic Act had the piano player.
I think he did, yeah.
But he can't accompany tap dance, apparently. It just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that leaves, well, I guess,
Is David going to be in it?
he refuses.
Yeah.
He's got plans.
What are,
Well, he actually considers it at first.
he does.
He seems to be willing to help out, but
Right.
he can't. He's going to go skiing that weekend.
Yeah. He already put down a deposit.
He did. He says he put down a deposit. And
Yeah.
as you know, Mike, I was totally sympathetic to that argument.
I know.
It's a pretty expensive for a deposit for a ski trip, I'll bet. He probably had like a lodge, maybe sharing a place with a bunch of guys. He didn't want to leave everybody else hanging.
Yeah.
He likes to go skiing.
Right.
Probably had it planned for months.
He's a rugged man.
He is.
He needs his adventure.
Yeah, and everybody kind of puts the guilt trip on him, but hey, he's got plans. You can't.
In varying degrees. Like, Tom is just sort of like, well, she'll be disappointed, but,
Yeah, he understands.
yeah, he's a man.
Yeah.
He's a dad.
That's right.
He gets it. There's another 7 kids that can help.
Yeah, you got plenty
And
of
2 parents.
plenty of talent to go around.
Yeah. Yeah, but then Joanie comes over and visits him, and he gets kind of like angry about it.
He is. He's really well. He kind of ties it together to the fact that like he was good with Nicholas, but it's like when Nicholas leaves the house, he runs over and David's kind of responsible for him.
Yeah.
And he says everybody comes to me for everything, and he points out that he's the first one they come to when they need money. Which I've seen that watching these other episodes. He's totally right about this.
Yeah.
They do lean on him, even though he's independent, and he still leans on them a little bit. But he's a little bit tired. I think he resents the assumption that he would just automatically come there and attend this, even though he's not living in the house. He's independent.
Right.
Maybe he just wanted to be wooed a little bit. He's a free
It
agent.
could be.
Maybe
But he makes a point. David's going to do something for David.
Yeah.
That's almost an exact quote.
He does. He speaks to himself. Yeah, refers to himself as David.
Yeah.
Which was a big moment for me.
Yeah.
I just thought about this now. He could have been booked to play at the ski lodge for all we know.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a gig up there.
Yeah, it's not just skiing.
Yeah, he was going to do a little, fireside entertainment.
Right. Yeah. Hey, by the way, he's doing construction outside
Yeah, right now.
while we're recording this.
Yeah, that's
so-
right. He's a real Renaissance man.
Yeah.
So that caused some tension. Joni doesn't like hearing no about this.
No, even wearing a silly gray hat,
Yeah,
you can't. That can't hide that she's upset.
she is.
And everyone, they're all just kind of judging him.
They are.
Not just disappointed, but they seem to be like. So later they're rehearsing, and Mary's talking to the priest, and then David shows up to give some money.
Yeah,
So he's doing what he can.
giving a donation.
Donation, and she makes some snarky remark
Yeah,
about that, and then that's kind of when everything starts to come together. So the other thing we didn't mention is one of the orphans is played by notable character actor and possible future Battle of the Network shows featured actor.
Ooh,
Mino Palouse.
Mino,
The
iconic Mino Palouse.
Yeah, very young. I mean, very like tiny,
Yeah, he is.
and but he gets a couple. He's playing an orphan.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little. So he and Nicholas are having a little conversation about that situation, and of course Nicholas lost his mother,
Mm-hmm.
and then David overhears this, and Nicholas says how great his brothers are.
Yeah,
But David's going on a very important trip, so you can meet him some other time.
yeah.
And David does some thinking, some visual, some thinking for us. Just
Yeah.
standing in the hallway.
Yes,
Something's going to change.
he's visibly moved.
Yeah. And so that already brings us to the night of the show. The big show.
Yeah. What a show it is.
And who shows up but David? And he's going to sing a song that he just wrote.
Yeah. It's an original David Bradford composition.
That's right.
He's a little coy about it. He kind of hints at, he's just been thinking about things and it inspired him to write a song.
Right.
So it's going to be a big, the premiere of this song for everybody.
Yeah. And Joanie's still giving him the cold shoulder.
Yeah. Which.
And he's like, I showed up, right?
Yeah. And that's not good enough.
No.
Now, I was thinking it was maybe because she thought the advanced sales would have been better if she could have put David Bradford starring in the show. She could have used his name. Maybe that's what it was. She couldn't promote him, but
he's huge in Sacramento.
Yeah. But yeah, she's a little definitely standoffish, and I didn't really establish why. It was just it seemed like more of a petty thing because he's there, he's going to sing.
I chose to believe Mary's in the middle of that, that it's that being the three oldest kids that they have, they have a history that maybe they don't have with the other kids. Like, obviously David doesn't have that kind of history with Nicholas. Mm-hmm. He's almost like an uncle as much as a brother, I think.
Yeah.
Just because of the age difference.
That's a good point, yeah.
Whereas they're like pretty close, so they might have a lot of tension for at least a year or two.
Yeah.
Mary was the middle kid and whatever, keeping peace between those two. Because even though she was a little mean earlier, like now she's like, well, he showed up, so all is forgiven as far as she's concerned.
She gives him credit, yeah.
Yeah. But then we get to see various acts of the show.
Yeah.
Which hopefully we can remember in order.
Oh, I'm not sure the order they did. I mean, they start out with like the whole family does a little number with top hats and canes.
That overture song.
Yeah.
That Nicholas took from where I know it from the Saturday morning Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole on with the show, this is it business.
Yeah.
And, they do that. That's their opener.
I think Tommy's maybe next with his magic act.
Yes, and Nancy is his assistant.
Yeah, and he makes her disappear.
He does make her disappear. Yeah.
Much to his own surprise.
Yeah, I questioned some of his stage presence.
Yeah.
It's not usually good for him for a magician to squeal with glee that his trick worked, but there's a certain charm in it. I guess it works for Tommy.
Yeah, it did work, and somewhere in there's the tap dancing tuba thing.
Yeah,
which is
about what it sounds like.
Yeah,
the tuba. It's not exactly brilliant tuba playing either. It's choppy tuba playing. It's not good tuba playing.
I'm no expert on tuba playing, but it didn't seem like great tuba.
No, I don't think it was.
I couldn't really identify a song, but they did manage to. They had costumes and they had a lamppost on stage.
Yeah, there's a little production design there.
Yeah, and then Abby, because Abby can sing, she comes out.
Yeah,
does a song.
Yeah, I mean,
without a microphone, and David's accompanying her, so that's another thing I was thinking about. Him showing up must have not been a total surprise. He must have already told them he was going to show up.
That's right, because he's playing the song that she's singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's accompanying her quite well.
Yeah.
A very quiet, reflective, beautiful song that she sings, and I was just laughing watching it because it's clear that she's got the most talent of anyone in the family.
Right.
And nobody else in the family makes a big deal out of it, and it's barely mentioned in the episode.
Yeah.
Like nobody says, "Wow, that was a great number," or
no.
"Oh, of course we'll get Abby to sing." It's all about David. And
yeah. I did
Ed
notice.
Was still really resentful.
Like when they're having that meeting and she volunteers to sing, whoever's sitting next to her kind of gives her a playful pat on the shoulder, like, "Oh, good,"
Yeah. Like what a sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does get a pretty big round of applause.
Yeah.
You can't ask Betty Buckley to tone down her talent.
No.
To make it look real. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's just weird.
I mean, I guess it's a paycheck, but if she ever had any second thoughts about being on a regular show, this would be the time because she's playing like fifth fiddle.
Right.
She gets her number. I guess maybe it was a good showcase for her anyways, but it seemed odd to me how minimized her character's contributions were in this story.
Yeah.
and she'd been she was still a little bit kind of on the outside of the family at this point, but probably deserved a little bit better. And I wouldn't have blamed her for being a little bit resentful towards all the attention that David gets.
And this is the season where she came in and over the course of the season, dated.
Oh, well, actually, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She might have been at the end of, because the time. Yeah, season 2 was when she got married.
Okay.
She married him, and they had their ups and downs. But point being, she was fairly solidly established, and she ingratiated herself with the family long by this point. So
maybe when they were writing the thing, like Betty Buckley was like, "I'm not going to sing on the show. Like that's my real, you're going to have to pay me extra to sing on the show.
Yeah.
Just don't do it at the drop of a hat."
Kind of like the anti-Linda Lavin.
Yeah.
Who, as we know, as we presume, every episode of Alice, she's like, "You want me to sing? No, Linda, we got plenty. I could sing.
Right.
This whole episode's about Tommy and Mel on a camping trip. I can sing. No, that's all right." So Betty Buckley, I guess, would be the opposite of that.
Right. Anyway, it's nice, and it's one of those rare instances where a character is singing on a show, and you're not embarrassed for them.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So that was cool. And there's Joanie has a sort of, I don't know, Charlie Chaplin kind of thing.
Yeah, showing off her mime talents.
Yeah. She's like prepares a dinner of garbage.
Yeah.
But then doesn't eat. So she the last bit is she pulls the shoe out of the trash can, and everyone laughs. But Charlie Chaplin actually ate a shoe.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
This, to me, she should have eaten the shoe.
Right.
To me, the act is eating the shoe. The rest of the stuff, I wasn't that interested in.
Yeah, a couple of these acts don't have the payoff that you expect.
Speaking of that, should we get to the...
Yeah. So, earlier, we saw Tom and Nicholas trying to rehearse Who's on First, the famous Abbott and Costello routine.
Mm-hmm.
And Nicholas just didn't care. He wasn't interested. Tom was playing the Costello part in that version.
Mm-hmm.
He was asking who's on first, and Nicholas kept saying, "I don't know." No one said third base.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity number 1 there.
Yeah, I was surprised at that.
Yeah. And then one of the other cool thing that happens at the end of that, or the cool thing, when Tom walks off and he decides, "I'll just do it myself."
Oh yeah.
And then so our boy DVP is doing both sides of Who's on First.
Yeah, he's doing a one-man Who's on First.
Yeah.
So he's acting it out, and unfortunately he's kind of walking away as he does it and stuff. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen just him actually do that
the whole
for a
thing.
couple of minutes. Yeah, but it was kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
And I could make this point later again, but it kind of shows how Tom Bradford is not like the lovey-dovey dad. He's kind of a jerk sometimes. I mean, he really gets flustered. I mean, granted, in a way, Nicholas is showing a little bit of lack of professionalism, but he's an amateur. They all are.
Yeah.
And, Tom's acting like, to me, it was almost like not even so much the lack of effort, but he was just genuinely upset that Nicholas couldn't learn his lines and was just, the timing was off.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do you expect? Who's on First is not that easy a routine to do. I mean, Abbott and Costello did it like tens of thousands of times to hone their timing. And they're sitting there in the living room, and he's trying to do it with like an 8-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, it's not working that well.
Yeah, and comedy legends like Buddy Hackett and Harvey Korman couldn't get it down.
Right. As somebody once said, it's like they never even saw the routine Who's on First. So, yeah.
Anyway, at the end of that scene, like, Joanie gets a little twinkle in her eye. She's got an idea of how to make this work.
Yeah, she's...
So, I'm going to give her credit, because she did kind of make it work.
Yeah, she has a little rap session with Nicholas and figures out that his attitude was kind of a facade. Really, he was scared because it was too hard for him. He didn't understand it, and he didn't really want to admit that.
Yeah.
So she finds a way, I guess, to make it more accessible to him.
Yeah. While still having them dress like people from the 1920s.
Of course, yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. DVP, of course, is dressed like a flapper. And Nicholas is dressed like a gangster.
Right.
With a little violin case and a pinstripe suit.
Yeah. Actually, well, yeah. I like that image.
Oh yeah, which one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
They're both sort of in short pants and
Yeah.
like golfing outfits.
Right,
I guess.
right.
That would be a good.
Roaring 20s kind of.
Yeah. And it starts as Nicholas with like this giant pair of fake binoculars,
Yeah.
which are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how they had the time to get all that stuff together.
No, that was like the single best prop in the whole night was those binoculars. Now that you mention it.
But instead of being baseball, it's music based.
Yeah.
So it's who's playing first. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or no, I mean that's right.
Correct.
Sorry, yes is playing second.
Yes. That's what you see. Yes.
3 bands are playing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's 3 bands in a concert. Yeah.
Who's playing first?
Exactly.
But what's the name of the band?
No, 2.
And so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scene.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we never find out the name of the third band.
No, because Tom says something like, is that the band?
Yeah.
And Nicholas says, I thought, as a fan of the band,
Oh, yeah.
it made me happy. But Nicholas is like, no, the band broke up.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
here.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty good. That was.
Yeah, but because of that, we never find out. And Tom does sort of it's like a weird, what the heck? Or
Yeah.
something.
What the heck? Yeah, he kind of elongates that a little bit, and
Yeah.
it's a real exasperation. But
Right.
He's no Lou Costello, but
No.
it amused me in its own way.
Yeah. Very good effort.
Yeah. So who do you think that third band was?
I'm trying to think of.
Yeah. Was there a band called This or Question Mark and the Mysterians, maybe?
The Guess Who?
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, there you go. Actually, what would have been funny is if they could have ended it just like, and then who's the third band? No, who's the first band? Like, and then just somehow end it with one of them saying, "Oh, it's Bachman Turner Overdrive." And there's like no joke to it. Like they just happen to be the third band. Mm-hmm. But we don't even really get that. There's no capper to that routine, unfortunately.
No. Yeah. But I think we're there. There's a capper to the show.
There sure is.
David walks out with his 12-string guitar.
Just he and his guitar. Yep.
Gives a little speech
Gives a little introduction. Yep.
about, difficulty of being in a big family. And then he sings a beautiful song. And not just any beautiful song. It's the one he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know the name of it. I think we know the name of it. Well, I don't know what the official name of it. It's what would become in season 3 the theme song to 8 Is Enough.
Yeah, I think that's spectacular that you can introduce a song within a show at the end of the second season, then it comes back and that becomes the theme song for the rest of the series. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't know how often that's happened in TV history, but
maybe only once.
It's classic.
And have one of your actors sing the theme song.
Yes.
I mean, Alice did that, but
Yeah.
that's not normal.
No.
Not regular,
It's usually uncalled for.
When Alan
actually.
Thicke was singing theme songs, it was on shows he wasn't on.
Yeah, and I think many people thought he sang the Growing Pains theme song
Yeah.
at first, but he didn't.
No. And Michael Gross was, he did some versions of the Family Ties song.
Oh,
People don't know that, but
Yeah, I'll bet.
he did like the demo version.
Oh, yeah?
He also sang it in falsetto.
Yeah. Just him doing the sha-da-da-da, sha-da-da-da.
Yeah.
That would have been classic. I could see that.
They should have had the whole family record that at some point.
Yeah. Well, they must have done this episode is in the great tradition of let's have the whole cast put together a show.
Yeah.
And Family Ties, I think, did that as like a PBS fundraiser.
Yeah.
They've done similar things like that. And
Yeah.
8 Is Enough, in a way, it's only natural. You got that many people on the show, some of them with actual talent. You might as well do this kind of episode. But David does bring home he gives a star performance.
Yeah.
It should have been a superstar performance. I think this song was designed to be a real showcase for him. Should we sing the theme song now for everybody? Maybe not. If you just watch this episode or go to any episode, there was an instrumental theme song the first couple seasons. Then season 3, they moved to Grant Goodeve singing this theme song.
That instrumental theme song it's just kind of nothing. It's okay.
I enjoy it, but it's not. Yeah, it doesn't have the same resonance.
And then the score of the show is just like a hodgepodge of stuff.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's little wah-wah guitar things.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like weird like analog synthesizer sci-fi bits.
Which is funny because I believe Earl Hagen was one of the show's composers, and especially at the beginning, he established a lot of like the musical score, and he wrote like the Andy Griffith theme song, the Dick Van Dyke theme song, the I Spy theme song. So he did a lot of my favorite theme songs, but he didn't do the 8 Is Enough theme song apparently. And totally upstaged by Grant Goodeve singing 8 Is Enough.
Maybe we can talk about some of the lyrics. So.
Okay, yeah, we could. If you and I were in a talent show, this would be our talent. Would be doing a spoken word rendition of
right, and maybe I could learn it on guitar. It seems, that'd be pretty simple.
Folks, write in if you want him to learn it on guitar and play it.
Season 3 baddies might need a musical act.
Yeah, well,
B. Arthur might not.
She's still a little steamed about how things turned out in the Season 2 baddies. So, yes.
Okay, so now he sings actually a longer version than the theme song.
Yeah, there's a whole verse I didn't know.
And there's like a bridge. Is that in the theme song too? It was right after that verse.
No, I don't think it was.
Oh, love makes all the difference now, and one that really shows. Just look at every one of us. See how it overflows. That's how it's written here.
Oh, that was not in the. That's not in the TV version. The theme version.
I'm just going to go to this last verse because that's the one we're most interested in.
Yes, we know there's a magic in the early morning we found when the sun smiles on everything around. It's a portrait of the happiness that we feel it always will, phrase enough to feel. Not that I know the song or anything, but okay, let's just go to the last verse.
The sunrise.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sorry.
But, so the last verse, that we spend our days like bright and shiny new dimes. If we're ever puzzled by the changing times, there's a plate of homemade wishes on the kitchen windowsill, and 8 is enough to fill our lives with love. Yes, more than enough to fill our lives with love.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
We spend our days like bright and shiny new dimes. We were talking about that. Like that lyric always confused me. I've got to confess, I didn't know the real meaning of that until last night.
Right, and I really had only noticed it last night, and was like just bewildered by it.
Yeah.
Because I imagined it, as you did, that meant that they all. I imagined all the characters as dimes.
Yeah, like we're all a bunch of dimes. It's like, what are we doing here? We're running around like a bunch of aimless dimes.
Right.
We're bright and shiny. That
Nicholas is spinning on the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then as we were talking about it,
thrown into a toll booth.
Yeah.
But apparently, the idea is that we spend it's currency.
Yeah. The days.
We use up our days as if they're but a dime.
Right.
Each day is but a dime. Is only 10 cents. We spend them.
Yeah.
Not we pass the time. We spend them as current, or we use them as resources. We use them up.
Yeah. But almost in a casual way. I mean, dimes are not, they're a low denomination. So.
Yeah, it's not like $100 bill or something.
Right, yeah. Which would imply you don't spend them often.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, if we're ever puzzled by the changing times has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, and why is there the uncertainty there? He doesn't say as if.
Yeah.
It's like if we're ever puzzled. I mean, is he not sure about that? Why the need for speculation?
He could also say when we're ever puzzled.
Now that would make sense.
Yeah.
The if part kind of renders that line incompatible with the other one.
Yeah. There's a plate of homemade wishes on the kitchen windowsill.
Okay, now that makes perfect sense. That's obvious.
I don't know what that means. I mean, is that referring to a literal thing? What kind of plate would you put on
the Bradford wish plate?
Yeah.
It was an heirloom handed down through the family.
Right.
By old Pat Bradford years ago. And they've kept in the family, and wherever they want something, they write on a piece of paper, and just put some like maybe beads or something on it, so it's homemade.
Yeah.
And then they just set it out on the plate and see if the wish fairy picks it up. I don't know what it means. Homemade certainly has that like old-timey kind of warm, nostalgic, homemade. Yeah. They're not artificial wishes; they're homemade wishes.
Nobody wants a plate of store-bought wishes.
No, that'd be terrible. Right. Especially those generic ones.
Yeah. Yeah, Hydrox wishes are the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
That's,
But if you leave a plate in the kitchen windowsill, it's kind of like a fresh pie. You know, you
Yeah.
sit it out there, you hope the crows don't pick at it.
and some hobo steals it
Yeah, steals your homemade wishes.
and then puts it back because it's not food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the genius of it. You can leave your wishes out. You can let them cool. Kind of like a nice canister of sun tea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you leave those wishes out all day, and they marinate. They get better as the day goes on, and then they become something really special.
That was like a Lipton ad campaign, right?
Yeah, the homemade wishes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
our tea is like homemade wishes. Don Meredith.
Yeah. Don Meredith and Grant Goodeve in the same commercial. Can you imagine that? No woman in America would be safe from the charms of that duo.
Hey Grant, what you
Yeah.
got out on the deck there?
Oh, just a homemade batch of wishes with Lipton tea.
There's something in your impression that struck me about Grant Goodeve because, you know, the construction part of it and kind of just the memory of him wearing a lot of flannel and stuff and being kind of macho.
Yes, and often with a few buttons unbuttoned in his shirt,
Well, yeah.
in his flannel shirt. Yeah.
But he has a very kind of like almost proper way of speaking
He does.
and singing.
He's
Like,
got it's a very sensitive way. Like,
Yeah.
his style of singing actually brought to mind another TV star as we watched this episode, that being Mr. Van Driesen from Beavis and Butthead, who did the classic "Men Have Feelings Too," which is another one of my favorite TV songs. It's a little reminiscent of that,
yeah.
but he definitely, you're right. He's got a sensitive demeanor. He's thoughtful. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's impulsive and stuff, but he's rather soft spoken.
Yeah.
You know, for being a guy, and he certainly has a pair of blue eyes, does he not?
He does. Yeah.
And the camera loves him.
And you know, that apartment has some interesting stuff going on.
Grant's or David's bachelor pad,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I feel like there was like a homemade coffee table of some kind. Some kind of flag hanging on the wall.
Yeah, I'm not sure where some of that stuff is, but
And he definitely had a sort of beer stein and little signs and posters, things hanging up all around. And there was one right by the door. It's something like "Busty women float better,"
yeah,
written in sort of like like early 20th century writing and
Yeah.
stuff, like something you see in a saloon or.
it must have been a housewarming gift from one of his sisters. I'm sure. Gave the place some real class.
Yeah.
It's an interesting apartment, yes. But now, did you see any homemade wishes in his apartment?
I don't think he had a windowsill.
Yeah, boy.
No, he did. He didn't have a. He doesn't have a kitchen windowsill. I don't think.
No, maybe
He
in
didn't
his
have a big-
bedroom he did.
His kitchen wasn't very big.
No,
It's not a studio.
it's a modest one bedroom, I guess.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good amount of space, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he'd have to leave his wishes just on the counter or something, or
Right.
just on the nightstand.
Yeah. He does have a lot of matches.
That's true.
He
Yes.
and Nicholas played some version of some card game.
Yeah.
They made it seem like it was poker, and then it clearly wasn't.
Yeah, I'm
and
not
he
sure
was
what.
clearly letting Nicholas win.
Yeah. They're playing for matchsticks. Yeah.
Yeah. Nicholas just set the house on fire.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the song. I mean, do we have anything else to say about that song that hasn't been said yet?
I think I like that version better than the theme song version. Just because, so the theme song version has like a whole band or orchestra behind it. It's a little more produced.
Right, definitely.
This is just him and his guitar.
Well, I listened to that TV version many, many times, so it's hard for me to pick it.
Here's what. So part of what's happened while he's playing, they keep cutting backstage to the rest of the family.
Oh, yeah,
like doing stuff, and then slowly they all make their way to the side of the stage to listen to him, and then run out and hug him or whatever. But that kind of struck me as odd too, because
they're not paying attention to.
They're acting. It's like they're professionals.
Yeah.
Like Tom and Nicholas are sitting there like brushing their hats or something, like taking care of their costume, and some of the girls are like, I don't know, taking off makeup or putting on makeup.
It's like they've got to pack up for the next gig or something like that. Like
Yeah.
they're a road show and they've got to.
Right.
They got things to do to get ready because they're going to hit the road as soon as the
Yeah.
the curtain goes down.
It's just a,
They're not paying any attention to David, even though they're making a big deal out of whether he'd show up or not. He's got a new
Yeah.
song that he wrote for them.
Yeah.
And they're just all milling about backstage.
right. I think he and Joanie made up right before he went on.
Right.
So she might be standing there,
Yeah.
and Mary might be standing there because it's her job to stand there. But
True.
the rest of them, yeah,
That was Mary's talent, was standing there.
yeah, with a clipboard,
Yes.
yeah, and yeah, and then they make their way out, and I don't think anybody cried, but
No, except us, but
yeah,
anybody in the family, yeah.
right,
It was a showstopper.
yeah,
Oof.
for sure, and they had a full house by the end of that thing, so hopefully they raised a lot of money for that church and those orphans.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And if not, maybe the cast recording of the made money afterwards. They got proceeds for years from that.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody bootlegging that.
Yeah. It was probably Tommy. He probably had some scheme.
Right.
Yeah, it was something else. It was an enjoyable episode.
Yeah. There's one little bit we haven't talked about. The little button at the end.
Oh, yes, the
So,
resolution.
The resolution of Nicholas's UFO thing.
Yeah.
David leads the whole family. It seems like he's leading them into. They're just in their yard, but they're actually walking into the neighbor's yard.
Yeah, just all of them together, just walking there.
Right. And they all stand by a shed, and he opens the shed and flips a switch, and the shed is decked out like it's a spaceship.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If I were a kid, I'd love that.
Right.
That kind of thing.
So Nicholas's story involved I think someone like put a sack over his head,
There was some kind of element of
like a
abduction.
kidnapping. Yeah.
Yeah.
While he was playing with his friend Kenny P. Landers.
Yes.
So it turns out David built this spaceship like 10 years before with another Landers, whose name I'm forgetting now.
It was something like
Something B. Landers.
it was
right?
Kenny B. Landers or something.
it-
I think it was.
It was a different first name.
It was Benny P. It rhymed with Kenny though, didn't it? Or something?
I
It was-
think so,
It
or-
was something very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the middle initial that he stressed.
And Kenny P. Landers got mentioned, at least in the other episode I watched, which was the first one of the next season, and again had instigated some trouble.
Yeah.
He told Nicholas you have to stare down your parents, so I guess Nicholas just takes everything literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that episode, he just kept staring at Tom
Yeah.
without saying anything.
Right. It was rather unsettling.
Yeah. So, anyway, it was a nice little ending to it all.
Yeah, it was, and it was nice because in classic TV tradition, David couldn't just tell everybody, "Oh yeah, I built that 10
Right.
years ago." He had to show everybody and take the whole family
Yeah.
and actually unveil it at the scene of the thing, which
Yeah.
makes for good television. So,
Yeah.
so Nicholas, as far as we know, was not actually abducted by
Yeah.
UFOs.
What do you think of the older siblings' attitude towards Nicholas?
How do you mean?
Well, they just seem to, is it just a general oh, there's a little kid being goofy
Yeah.
kind of attitude, or do they think he's an idiot?
I think it's more just patronizing, well, he's a little kid, and
Okay.
they're so much older than him
Yeah.
that I think they see themselves as a little bit above him.
Right.
But I don't think they necessarily see him as an idiot.
Yeah. Do they think it's cute?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's just kind of ha ha, but they
Yeah.
don't take him seriously.
Right.
But I think it's just because he's a kid, not because he's a moron.
Right.
Not that he's actually a moron, but you know what I mean. I don't think they think that he's a moron.
Right. He might be a moron.
He could be a moron.
Although he does seem to be intentionally or unintentionally often responsible for fixing. Well, I only saw 2 episodes, and both of them he played an important role in bringing everything together.
Yeah.
So
You know,
I'm not going to say he's a moron. He's a kid.
well, you sort of joked about this earlier, but I think there may have been one episode where he burned down the Bradfords, or he burned down something. So that may have actually happened. We'll have to check that out for the
Burned down the Landers home.
show notes. He burned down the Landers. Yes, by air quotes accident.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that spaceship where somebody dragged him and did Lord knows what with him in there, that perished in the blaze as well. So yeah. So it was. Again, it's like it's a typical put on a show episode, but actually reveals a lot about the family, and they're not all acting now. I think so. Who's your favorite Bradford kid? I mean, your favorite DVP is probably my favorite of the whole show.
Yeah.
Mine is Grant Goodeve, of course.
Yeah,
David.
I can't. I mean, unless I'm not allowed to take the same one, it's got to be him.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't have a sense of the girl characters, most of them.
Yeah.
I liked Mary. She seems like practical and, although in that other episode I watched, she caused a lot of trouble.
Yeah, with like some comic misunderstandings.
Yeah.
She's practical, but she's also very passionate and stubborn, I think.
Yeah.
So she gets herself she cares a lot, sometimes too much.
Yeah.
And she gets herself into trouble by that.
And I think, unfortunately, Nicholas is just sort of, because he's such the cute little kid, that can be annoying.
Yeah.
I don't hold his future life, the actor's future life against him, but for some reason I hold Willie Ames's future life against him a little bit.
You do, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
Well.
No offense, Willie Ames. I just, I don't know.
Yeah.
More just some of those things. Not Charles in Charge. I'm not holding that against anyone. But
Gee, Charles. That's my impersonation of that character. That's all he ever said on that show.
I do feel bad for him having to more than once be Scott Baio's second banana.
Yeah.
Right? He was zapped.
Once is enough in that situation to be in that predicament.
Yeah.
Yeah, zapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think growing up, I think my underrated favorite Bradford was Susan, who always thought, I think the quote-unquote pretty one was always supposed to be Nancy, the blonde that was the aspiring model. I thought Susan seemed pretty cool, but never really had that much to do with her until, and I didn't like it when she married that Merle the Pearl baseball player. That seemed kind of weird.
Was he played by anyone notable?
I can't remember who played him. The actor reminds me of somebody else, but...
I'm taking a look.
Speaking of that, Ralph Macchio, we should mention, joined the cast in the 5th season. The Jump the Shark season is Jeremy, who the Bradfords took in and was a troubled kid.
Oh, man. There's nothing more, other than, Sam, different sort, the cute family member. With the troubled kid thing.
Right.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio on Growing Pains.
Yeah, exactly.
Such a high-quality show before that.
Yeah, I know. Totally went downhill.
Brian Patrick Clark.
Yeah, I don't...
He looks familiar. And then the picture is black and white, so he looks a little bit like Brian Wilson.
Okay, yeah. That's what he reminded me of. It wasn't Brian Wilson, unfortunately.
Hey, he was on One Tree Hill for an episode.
I'm
trying to find something notable besides...
Yes, Merle the Pearl. So,
yeah.
The point being, though, that the cast was getting a little bit bloated by the 5th season. They're bringing in, the kids are getting older, and it's kind of natural. And maybe some of the main characters were on there less.
Yeah.
I think David was actually in more of these episodes than I thought. I think he wasn't always in as many of the episodes, I think, as the show went on. Then he eventually gets married, too, and gets a longtime girlfriend, Janet, I think.
And that... I mean, sort of, that was one of my memories, too, was that, him not always being around.
Yeah.
And not just, the actual, the characters being bothered by that, or maybe just because he moved out and all of that, but...
Yeah, some distance there.
Yeah.
Grant Goodeve still performs and has been active in... doing religious music, I think, over the years.
And
some acting and
is in the Twin Peaks revival, we think.
So I hear, yes.
Yeah, I think he lives out that in the Pacific Northwest.
I like the idea of David Lynch being a huge 8 is Enough fan that wrote
too.
Something specifically for Grant Goodeve.
Yeah.
Let's just go with that, right? Assume that's the case. Yeah, DVP is no longer with us, and Mary is no longer with us. She died like in her mid-40s, tragically, of a drug overdose.
Right.
And she had health issues and I think anxiety issues and fought addiction over the years. I think, and much of the rest of the cast, I think they're retired or semi-retired from acting.
Yeah,
for
I know.
years.
I was reading the ages of
yeah,
like,
except for Betty Buckley and
yeah. I mean, like a lot of the like they're like in their 60s, which shouldn't be surprising because it's a show from 40 years ago.
Yeah, but it feels
like,
feels weird. It's
yeah,
it's a little disconcerting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are your general impressions of the show? I mean, I think I did want to make the point, and I think that I said that it amuses me how often Tom Bradford is not particularly right. He doesn't have all the wisdom, and in fact, a lot of times he's not even particularly interested in what's going on with his kids. Like, I've seen many scenes where they'll all come to him with like yakking about their troubles, and they'll do it all at once, and it just bothers him. Instead of calmly saying, "Okay, take it one at a time. I'm only one man, and we'll do it," he just throws his hands up and goes in another room to read the paper or something like that.
Yeah.
He's short-tempered. He makes many mistakes. Now, usually by the end of the episode, he does apologize, but he doesn't always do the right thing.
Right. Yeah. So that other episode involved him having sleeping problems and getting a referral to go see a psychologist and then not telling anyone, and that causing all sorts of sitcom hijinks.
Yeah, they all think there's something more serious going on.
Because he's embarrassed by the idea of
he doesn't want to
seeing
admit
a psychologist.
Right. Because he's having insomnia, and it turns out it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know which of the things they're worrying about is worse. Like, the kids all think he's going to die, and Abby thinks he's cheating on her.
Right.
And he kind of gets away with it.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, that's silly once he tells them.
Yeah.
You know, because they're all modern people. They're not old-fashioned like him. So, yeah. Like, this episode I liked quite a lot. I don't know... like, when I think of the show, I think of... It's kind of like with... I talked about with game shows, like, wasting a lot of time watching it. And it obviously, like, a lot of it didn't stick. So...
Wasting a lot of time watching
it.
Well, I guess that sums up your feelings pretty well.
But, you know...
Wasting a lot of time watching it.
Like, as a kid, when I could have been doing something else.
Right.
Outside or whatever. Or my homework.
I remember it being on, like, kind of that 5 o'clock to 6 p.m. window a lot.
Yeah.
Like, kind of while I'm waiting for dinner and just, you know, checking it out and kind of having it on while sort of in between that. Not necessarily, maybe a little too late to be outside, but too early to have dinner, and that's when I seem to recall it being on in reruns. But I enjoy it, and I'm enjoying it now. To me, I find it just very easy to watch. It's not particularly taxing.
Yeah.
You don't need to pay really close attention, and it's not always that outrageous, but there's just something very easy about it. I like those kind of family shows with multiple characters and multiple storylines that often do come together like they do in this episode. I find it a very entertaining show, and I'm really enjoying reliving it.
I mean, I would kind of like to watch a few more episodes to see if I could get a better idea of some of the other characters, like who they are, like, you know. So I think, like we said, like David, Tom, and Joanie, and Mary from this episode are fairly clear.
Yeah.
I don't think, and Nicholas, but nobody else really is.
Right. The other ones they're afterthoughts, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of times they do get, because the nature of the show, they would cycle through, and the kids would get their turn to get their own individual storylines.
Yeah.
You know, so that they're definitely episodes where you can get to know more of the Bradfords a little bit better.
I have to assume that most episodes also featured at some point a scene that just ended in, like, all of them talking at once.
Yeah, like
I know this one had it.
That big kitchen table they have.
Yeah.
You know,
right, and the giant kitchen table and the giant dining room table.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a lot of scenes of them sitting down and, like, passing food and talking like that and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a nice thing.
Yeah, that is
the whole
nice.
family usually gets together and breaks bread, and David comes over a lot of times, gets a free meal. So yeah, that does happen a lot, and it's a entertaining show. Mm-hmm. You don't get the kind of talent you do in this episode and every episode, so don't expect that. But
yeah,
you if you watch season 3, 4, or 5, you're going to get Grant Goodeve at the beginning of every episode.
Yeah, even
singing.
if he's not in it.
So at least you got that. So there's always that.
Right.
Nothing else. And you got, of course, DVP anchoring everything.
Yeah.
In his inimitable way. Often showing, he's often frazzled and often frustrated and
Yeah.
sort of like, not midlife crisis, but it's kind of stuff like middle-aged anxiety. And
Right.
he worries about his kids, but he most often seems to worry about how what his kids do affects him. It's not like he's inherently worried about what Joanie's going to do, but
Right.
like in that episode you mentioned, where I think is the first one in season 3, where would it be the next episode?
Yeah.
Where so he rattles off like a bunch of things that
Right.
happened to him, and they're all actual storylines from other
figured, yeah.
episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Joanie was nude in a play, and all my kids got arrested at once, which happened in an early episode. And
Right. Mary moved in with her boyfriend.
yes, which is Don Johnson in that episode. Which he could have just mentioned that, and she probably would have prescribed him something pretty strong.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's the kids do put him in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
And every now and then we see his world at the. I like the scenes at the newspaper where he's a columnist that gets his own office and his own secretary.
Right.
And he apparently does everything. And then there's at least one episode where he sort of becomes the de facto publisher and editor in chief because somebody else is out of town. He's got to run the whole place. Like
That's kind of the pecking order at
Yeah.
newspapers, right?
Yeah.
Publisher, editor-in-chief, assistant editor, columnist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody else seems to be out of town at the same time.
Right.
He's like the designated survivor that's always got to
Yeah.
be in the premises in case something happens. The other guys are off at some
Right.
newspaper conference or whatever.
Maybe just because he has such a big family, like they just gave him that job. They're like, there's no way you can travel.
Yeah, yeah.
You got 8 kids.
Yeah.
You're just going to stay. When we go to the convention, you get to stay.
Just sit here in the office.
We're going to get drunk,
Yeah.
do things that only happen, there, to stay there wherever we're going. And you man the station.
I think you're onto something there, and I think he might have become like an actual editor or something later in the show, but at this point, yeah, he's a newspaper columnist.
Yeah.
Writing general interest columns and touching on local politics and all sorts of things.
Yeah. So I've got a couple more questions for you.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Do you have any interest in reading the memoir that inspired this?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and actually, yes, I have access to an easily obtainable. I think it's in print actually.
Yeah.
I think it's in digital print, but yes, it's a short book though.
Yeah.
I think it's less than 200 pages, so I do have interest, and I probably will read it at some point.
Do you know, or do you think it is a collection of his column, like the real?
I don't think so. I think it's
Okay.
inspired by it, but I think it's actually more like. Well, I think it's anecdotal though.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's actually just taking the columns. But I think it's more like stories that happen to him and stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it is.
Do you in any way find the title 8 is Enough confusing?
Oh, that was a tough one.
Yeah.
The first 2 were easy. That one. No, I don't.
Because I a little bit, like, I thought, just because it had been so long since I'd seen it, I'm like there's 8 people in the family total.
Yeah, not the case.
Not the case. Which, I was going to mention that the song should really be at least 10 is enough. Mm-hmm. Like, the parents are totally out of the equation in that song.
Well, it's weird because you'd think that it's sung unless it's sung from the point of view of the father, but Grant Goodeve is the oldest son. He's not the father.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it's like, okay, 8 kids is enough.
Right.
And for me, you have to remember the show was built around the theme song for me.
Yeah.
So 8 is enough to fill our lives with love, and that's what. Okay, I never had any problems with the title because
Yeah,
of the stories.
and that does sound more like a parent singing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is 8 enough?
Is 8 enough?
Yeah.
Lord, yes. It's more than enough.
Okay. That was my last question.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Who is the band playing first?
Exactly.
Wait, that wasn't a sentence. It was a question.
Yes.
No,
Wait,
they're playing second.
No, wait, no, you should know that. That's we're gonna have to work on that. Maybe I'm looking at your shirt right now. Night Ranger is playing third. I liked your idea about it.
It doesn't make sense that they wouldn't name them, though.
Yeah. Was Night Ranger, did they exist in 1978?
Ooh. I am ashamed to admit that it might have been right in the cusp of Night Ranger. They certainly weren't in the league of The Who, yes, the band, or Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Right.
Say that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've answered all the questions.
I think we have answered all the questions. We've solved the mysteries of the theme song, the mysteries of the title,
Yeah.
and some of the mysteries of Grant Goodeve.
No one can ever solve all the mysteries of Grant Goodeve.
But I could spend a lot of time trying. This episode brought to you by Kenny P. Landers, causing trouble since 1978. This episode also brought to you by David Bradford's hair care products for manly men who aren't afraid to share their feelings. This episode also brought to you by contraception. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/battleofthenetworkshows.
Yes, I can, but I won't. Look, I'm really sorry, Joanie, but I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Well, you know, it's nice that some of us had parents to teach us how to ski.
Oh, boy, if you're trying to make me feel guilty, forget it.
Oh, come on, David. I'm just trying to tell you that you can go skiing anytime. I mean, how often do you get a chance to help others out?
In our family, that's all I do is help others out. David, help me do this. David, help me do this.
Oh, excuse me for imposing on your time.
That's right, my time. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's why I moved out of the house, to gain a little independence, not to be the first one involved in every family crisis.
As I recall, you are a part of that family.
Yeah, but it's a little more than that. I happen to be the one that everyone leans on. I'm the oldest. I have the apartment that everyone runs away to. I have the van that gets borrowed. I'm always the first one hit for money. Well, forget it this time. This time, David is going to do what David wants to do.
We spend our days like bright and shiny new dimes. If we're ever puzzled by the changing times, there's a plate of homemade wishes on the kitchen windowsill, and 8 is enough to fill our lives with love. More than enough to fill our lives with love.